Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy and ascension forecast for Sunday, December 29th to Saturday, January 4th. So last week, of course, we ushered in Capricorn season, and that kicked off the solstice, which kicked off the 3 days of darkness, which we also had the last quarter moon take place in Libra energy under those 3 days of darkness until we had Christmas, Yule, Hanukkah, Festivus, or just a regular Wednesday. Whichever way you looked at it, whichever way you chose to celebrate it, the 25th of December is when the sun actually started moving again, which means that the 3 days of darkness were over, the funk that we were sitting in came to an end, and we started to see the positives again, which lucky for us, we desperately needed coming out of that solstice energy. Now, this week, this is a close out week. First of all, we're going to be closing out the month. We're going to be closing out the year. We have Chiron going direct before the year's end, which means that we, as these spiritual warriors, are ready to do what needs to be done to heal, to grow, to evolve, to improve, especially as we head into the new year. We also have the new moon in Capricorn popping off on the 30th, which is, Capricorn energy is the manifesting energy of the zodiac. So it's going to be a beautiful energy because, of course, the new moon is the dark phase of the moon. There is no illumination in the sky. It is going to feel very dark, very heavy, very weighted, but also very cleansing, very purifying, very illuminating on what we want to build and create, not only moving into the new year, but for this next 5-year chapter. This will also be the last week that Mercury will be in his post-retrograde shadow period. Again, each and every single day, he's picking up steam. He's almost at his power. He will be in brand new territory again at the very beginning of the new year. And this is going to be Mars's last week-ish of being retrograde in Leo energy. We will watch Mr. Mars retrograde back into the Cancer energy January 6th, which is going to bring a totally different mood and attitude. But again, our asses are sat on the bench. There is no action. There is no initiation. There is no moves to be made. So again, please do not delude yourself in thinking that we're moving into 2025 and that you have a fresh, clean slate to be working with and that you can immediately jump in and initiate new things and begin new chapters and start new things. Again, if you're somebody that kind of sets New Year's resolutions for themselves, good luck with that. You are not being supported by the energies to start anything new in a death cycle. We are in an ending, in a closure, in a death cycle right now. You do not bring new things to life in a death, ending, and closure cycle. So it's going to feel pretty weird for us to be moving into the year. And again, I'm going to encourage you to take a listen to the 2025 year ahead energy overview that I've put out there for your listening pleasure. We are coming into the year thinking that we want to move forward, thinking that we want to take action and make moves, but we're not being supported in doing that. This is a reflective energy. The only actions, the only moves that we will be making are in our inner realm, restructuring our thoughts and restructuring our emotions. Okay, we got to get our shit together. We're moving into a year of endings and closures. We are moving into a month of a lot of different energy shifting. And again, January's energy guides available to you here over the next couple of days. The zodiac forecast, not only for the year, but for the month ahead, will be available over the next couple of days as well. There's a lot of energy building up, and it's going to make us feel a little bit torn. Like we want to move on, we want to move forward, but there's just so much to wrap up and bring an ending and a closure to that those are the only actions that we're actually going to be able to make. So it's going to be a very interesting dynamic, of course, just trying to close out this year and move into the next. We're going to talk about that as we get going here. I do have a hefty homework list that I do want to cover before I start ranting and raving and talking about all things energy and ascension. First, I just want to thank you. I want to thank you so much for being here. Thank you for liking, for sharing, for commenting, for dropping beautiful emojis in the comment section below, making it a beautiful community to actually scroll through. I want to thank those of you that have abandoned YouTube for Spotify, for iTunes, for my Patreon Patreon. I want to thank each and every single one of you on my Patreon for that love, for that support. But at the end of it, this is the last Ascension forecast of 2024. And I just want to thank each and every single one of you for the ongoing love and support. My goodness, thank you all so much. It is a beautiful feeling to know that we are all coming together, a like-minded energy, like-minded community. Again, my whole intention for 2025 is for us to be energetically linking arms and walking into this year as a force to be reckoned with. No one will be left behind. I also want to thank those of you for sending all kinds of holiday love, holiday wishes, holiday support. Thank you so kindly for that. I want to thank those of you that have taken advantage of booking out January for me. The only spots available for my one-on-one sessions right now are for February. So again, if you got some Christmas money that you want to invest in yourself and set yourself up for a powerful year ahead, I would definitely recommend booking a session with me. Again, I'm going to kind of plug here. Now, I'm in Canada. We've had Canada Post on strike since my birthday, which was November 18th, which has been an absolute disaster for Canadians, for, commerce, period. I didn't have the opportunity to kind of, promote my physical 2025 astrology calendar because there was no point, because most of my Canadians weren't going to get it. For those of you that did order it and that it has arrived and the feedback on that, I thank you so much, especially to my American friends. It was super easy for y'all to kind of receive yours in time. But now that Canada Post is supposedly back to work, if my Canadian friends, if you're interested in having that physical astrological calendar to kind of guide you through this year, then please go ahead, order that up. It should be moving. Apparently, Canada Post, everything is moving. You should be able to receive that in a couple of weeks. And of course, if you'd rather have the digital calendar, that's easy peasy. Jump over to my website. You'll have it in 2 seconds. It's going to be a valuable resource for anyone trying to map out their year ahead. And talking about the year ahead, of course, I have this 2025 year ahead overview, this energy workshop that is posted on my Patreon for January 1st. And anybody that takes part there will receive a discount code for both the digital and hard copy calendars as well. But we're basically going to be walking through all of the major astrology, how to locate that in your chart, what that's going to mean to you. Of course, the public 2025 year ahead overview that I put out there, it is an hour long. So I understand it is pretty lengthy. I don't go into great depths and detail on what all of these energy shifts are going to do, but definitely take a listen to that, even if you do plan on jumping over to that workshop on January 1st, because it's going to give you a good understanding of, the year ahead. And then we can do a deep dive in your chart to figure out what that actually means for you. So again, like I previously mentioned, we got a new moon coming at us. So there is a new moon manifesting guide. But again, we're in the old phase of the moon of the Sagittarius lunar cycle that we're now bringing to an end. So if you do have that manifesting moon guide available to you, there's still some work to do. And of course, with Chiron going direct and the new moon in Capricorn, those are the last two events in the December energy guide that we would have to cover before moving into January. And again, those January energy guides are going to be available over the next couple of days here. So look out for that. While everybody's kind of partying and doing, their celebratory things, ushering in the new year and closing out the old, I'm trying to get all these resources out to make sure that we're not in a shitstorm. We need to stay ahead of the game. We need to kind of roll instead of be dragged. And so there's a lot of resources coming out over the course of this next week that I'm going to ask that you keep your eye on, because again, I put all of this time, energy, and effort into making sure that we kick off this new year in the best way possible. So with all of that being said, I also just want to start my rant and rave by saying, congratulations. Not only did you make it through 2024, but you made it through another holiday season. I don't know about y'all, but I was actually semi-surprised. My holiday turned out to be a way better situation and circumstance than I was anticipating it to be. Although I was so stressed out that I did have a very severe nosebleed. And then I was wondering to myself, like, what is going on? What is going on? Went back, checked my Ascension forecast notes from last week. And sure enough, I had it on my list that not only were we having a lot of sinus issues, but that nosebleeds were highly probable. And that's the funny thing about me is, yes, I may sit here and yes, I may channel a bunch of information, but I don't know what's coming out of my mouth. I'm just as surprised as you guys are most of the time. And sometimes when there are, aches and pains or certain situations that pop off in my own personal life, I'm like, what's going on here? And then I have to go back to my own damn notes in order to figure out, oh, yeah, no, this is an Ascension symptom. I absolutely talked about this last week, so I don't know why I'm surprised. But again, that's part and parcel of just, opening your mouth and allowing the higher forms of intelligence to kind of set the scene here. I'm not really cognizant or aware of what I'm saying until I listen to it back. And most of the time I try not to listen to myself because my voice absolutely makes me cringe. But I think that kind of is a thing for everyone. So, whatever. Anyways, hopefully you survived the holiday. Hopefully it surprised you. Hopefully it was a better situation and circumstance than you were anticipating. And all I'm going to say is that we made it through another one. So congratulations to us for that. So let's talk about this week. First of all, may I remind you that we're in Capricorn season. It is very heavy. It is a very weighted season anyways. Luckily for us, the 3 days of darkness definitely behind us now. However, Saturn, he is still in his rulership. And there is a heaviness, there's a weight that we're carrying in our emotions, in our headspace, in our spirit, in our soul, and in our physical bodies. And so the heaviness, the weight, yes, it is being felt in our physical form because, again, Capricorn energy rules over the skeletal structure, the foundation of our physical form. And yes, there's a lot of popping, a lot of cracking, a lot of aches and pains. It feels like we are 500 pounds trying to run underwater. But at the same time, there's a lot of weight on our shoulders. And again, this comes from the roles and responsibilities, the obligations, the commitments, the duty, the karmic duty that we feel that we have to kind of, resolve here in this lifetime. All of that comes from Saturn. All of that comes from Capricorn energy. And it is very, very noticeable because, again, our physical body not feeling so hot. Our mental plane, little bit of a negative Nancy, little bit of a grumpy, critical Kathy, let's call it. There's a lot of friction in the mental plane. And of course, that means that there's a heaviness and a weight in our emotions, in our chest. And so, we may be a little bit of a crank ass, but for good reason. We have to kind of sit in the funk, sit in the darkness, if you will, in order to really kind of, pick ourselves apart, beat ourselves up, break ourselves down so that we can build ourselves up in a much better way. This is about empowerment. This is about giving ourselves a little bit of a minute to kind of whine and cry and pour woe is me. And then we got to get our shit together, boss up, and do what needs to be done. So we feel that in our physical form. And I know, the neck, it feels like our head space, our head feels way heavier than the 8 pounds that apparently our head or our brain is supposed to weigh. Feels like there is a much bigger bobblehead sitting on our neck and our shoulders than there used to be. Our neck is just sore and stiff and just has a little bit of a limitation when it comes to the back and forth movement. Again, a lot of pressure weighing on our neck, on our headspace. And it goes down to our shoulders. It goes down specifically, I think this week, we're going to have either a lot of pain and triggers and activations in our shoulder blades, which of course is indications of emotional weight that we have accumulated in the past that we need to kind of unpack and resolve and let go and release before moving into this new year. Or you could have this like cracking of the spine or this, realignment taking place where the relief, the pain, the pressure gets released in your shoulder blades and suddenly you feel like $1,000,000. You feel like a brand new person. Either way, there's some sort of tension, there's some sort of weight that needs to be realized in a painful way in order for us to appreciate when it alleviates. And I think that the alleviation of this weight, this responsibility, this funkiness is definitely going to take place under this new moon in Capricorn. It's kind of a double-edged sword, this new moon in Capricorn, because yes, it's the darkest the darkest point that we could possibly be sitting in as far as lunar phases go. And, there is no illumination in the sky. So we're kind of being left in the darkness to trust our gut, to trust our intuition. But yet at the same time, the conjunction between the sun and the moon coming together, which gives us that new moon energy, is a rebirth. It is a restart. It is a renewal of sorts. And we're going to gain so much insight and perspective on what needs to be done in order to close out the old, in order to free us up to actually start pursuing the new. But again, we're still lacking a lot of information, a lot of details to provide us with the sense of clarity that we know all of the pieces, if you will. And again, a little bit of a spoiler alert. I do talk about this in the 2025 year ahead readings. We are essentially moving into a year, and technically in the next 18 months, where we have to learn how to surrender. We have to learn how to walk forward in foreign territory without having all of the information, without having all of the details, without even having a plan. And a lot of that is going to be very hard, because what we have to be leaning into is faith. We have to be able to surrender to the ego needing all of the answers, needing the plan, needing the details, knowing all of the different variables of the situations and circumstances that could pop off. We have to let go of that, South Node and Virgo, and we have to lean into the North Node in Pisces energy, which is having faith, trusting our intuition, understanding that sometimes the journey has to kind of, kick off and be initiated, even though we don't know where we're going. We just know that we can't stay here, right? So there's going to be a little bit of I'm going to call it ending, death, and closure, and a rebirth, renewal, and release happening all at the same time under this new moon in Capricorn. And I feel like even though we are very anchored in the physical body, and we are very aware of what is working and what isn't working, and we're very aware of the aches and pains and very aware of the heaviness and the weight, we're also very aware on where we're able to alleviate and release some of that energy. And again, we have a different, let's call it, attitude of gratitude when some of that energy, some of that weight does shift, does get released, does kind of, get alleviated off of our shoulders, off of our head space, off of our heart space. So there's going to be a lot of pressure in the head. And again, just as Mercury, who rules over the head space, is kind of, trying very hard to wrap up this post-retrograde shadow period so that he can be in the free and clear moving into the new year, and really focusing in on, the goal, the vision, the target, if you will, and having optimism and having this hope and faith to really just kind of double down on understanding that we have to walk forward even if we don't have all the answers. Mercury's definitely going to help with that, but he's not there yet. And because of that, there is this inner struggle going on in our inner narrative. There is a lot of head pressure. The sinus issue is probably going to fluctuate, meaning, the third eye is going through this recalibration. And because of that, that third eye is very close to the sinus cavity. The sinus cavity, again, is very sensitive when it comes to the energy of the cosmos. Like whenever we see huge blasts on the Schumann resonance, there's usually this head pressure, this headache because of the sinus cavity. And, even when we're just talking about the barometric pressure shifting with the weather movements and stuff, this is why it affects our sinus cavity first and foremost, because it's a very delicate type of, functionality there. And so I feel like we're going to continue with the sinus issues. Again, maybe have congestion, one nostril over the other. Maybe it's going to be all full of goo and gunk and junk. And then all of a sudden, just like dripping like a water faucet. Hopefully the nosebleeds are behind us. I know that I was like jolted. It just didn't stop. It was like, of course, me trying to leave the house doing 50 million different things. I don't know if y'all know, but up here, not all of Canada, but where I'm at, we had a major winter storm be kind of dumped upon us. And we have like 40 plus centimeters. I think there was actually more than that. Like it's just, there's so much snow. I'm still not done trying to like shovel out and get everything cleaned up. It's been days that I've just been picking at it, but that on top of trying to, get myself together and get to my mother's house for our little Christmas celebration there. It was a time. And then, to have a nosebleed just kind of thrown upon you that wouldn't stop, that was just an extra added little level of effery that I really didn't need. But, nonetheless, I surprised myself when I went back and looked at the Ascension symptom list, and I was like, oh, damn, I should have known that this nosebleed was going to happen, right? Like, what's the point of knowing all of this futuristic information if you're not going to apply it to yourself, and you're just going to be just as surprised as if you didn't know about this? It's oxymoronic in that kind of way. But, there's this, I'm going to call it throat clearing issue as well. And a lot of that, of course, when you have sinus issues and there's postnasal drip running down the back of your throat, of course, your throat is going to be all effed up, and there's going to be this want, need, and desire to clear the throat. But also Mercury, he's trying to clear his throat in order to have the opportunity to spit some truth moving into the new year. We were, let me just say, not all of us, but we were under a huge influence of energy to kind of keep our mouths shut, to keep the peace throughout this holiday season. Many of us were in situations, familial dynamics and structures that essentially this year was the last year for that. A lot of the people that you had to deal with over this past week, you will probably not be dealing with moving into the new year. And this time next year, the holiday scene is going to look totally different. There's going to be a lot less people to have to kind of deal with. And that can bring a lot of happiness and relief to some people. And it can bring a lot of heaviness, a lot of sadness to some people, considering, the fluctuation, the adjustment, the change that's going to be taking place to the family dynamic. But again, Mars being retrograde, first of all, he's in this Leo energy. So there's a major change going on in our heart space. We're realizing who we are authentically connected to, emotionally connected to, and who it is that we just have, shallow connections with that really aren't doing anything for our soul and our spirit. We won't be dealing with those types of people moving into 2025. If there is not a heart soul connection here, if there is not a karmic tie here, we will not be dealing with those people that are just shallow, that are just surface level communication and obligatory interactions. Those days are gone. This was our last season for that. And, when Mars retrogrades back into the Cancer energy in the beginning of January, that is us reassessing who we actually deem to be of worth and value, who we want to pour our time, energy, and attention into. That Cancer energy, where it does represent the home, the foundation of the home, the family dynamics of that home state, that is going to be changing as well. And again, like I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, even if you were dreading, this holiday season and having to deal with certain people, we just needed to get through it this year, because some of those people will never be a part of our physical realms ever again. And so again, that can bring both sadness and it can be bringing relief. But either way, shit is changing in a major way here in 2025. So the throat clearing, because we are trying to, clear our throat to have a lot to say, we have a lot to get off of our chest. And once the holidays come to pass, we don't have to be as, let's call it, as kind and considerate as many of us felt like we had to be to just keep the peace and not start a damn near war at the dinner table. Moving into 2025, we're wasting no time. Not only is Mars retrograde and kind of reassessing who and what we're going to deem as worth and value, but we have Chiron, the wounded healer, now going direct, which means that he ain't taking no shit. He's going to do whatever needs to be done in order to cut off the people that are still siphoning our energy, that are still holding us back, that are still keeping the ego programmings that we're trying to eliminate alive and well. Anyone who wants to try and fit us back into the mold, back into the box that we're fighting very hard to break out of, will be removed from our physical realm. And so again, we're just having this like headspace throat issue because we are trying to get heart and head aligned here. It's not happening just as of yet. We do have a little bit more time that we need to kind of just sit in these realizations and just kind of observe what's going on and really listen to our physical bodies and how they react to certain people, to certain ideas of people, to certain, emotions that people kind of create within us. This is all just observation mode. And then as we move into January, we are going to be gifted with a little bit of an opportunity, not necessarily to take action and make moves, but to take action and make moves to get a lot off of our chest and out of our body and off of our heart space. And that is definitely going to stir the pot, so to speak. Now, I want to talk about this energy because, again, Sag energy that Mercury is in is a fire energy. And when we hold a lot of fire in our mouths, sometimes, first of all, we get that mouth film. I don't think it's like the sweaters on our teeth this time. I feel like it's almost like the pasties. You know, when you have a puff and then the pasties really hit you. Well, it's going to be like that for the majority of this week. Because again, there's a lot of fire that we're holding inside of us. And I would also say to pay attention to your gums. We could have sore, bleeding gums. We could have teeth issues, sore teeth, toothaches, if you will. There's a lot of fire, a lot of pressure being built up in our mouths. And we do have to kind of anticipate, if you will, for that energy to manifest in the physical form through those particular ouches, let's call them. Still in the head space, I want to talk about the head space, and then we'll kind of move further down the body here. So the eyes, like we have been, I don't even know how long it's been, but we've been going through some dramatic changes in our eyes. We have people where their eye color are changing. We have people that have worn glasses their whole lives that for some reason no longer need glasses, and vice versa. Those that have never worn glasses that now need glasses. We have a lot of shifting going on in our eyes because the vibration and frequencies that we've been able to anchor in throughout the course of 2024 is allowing our physical eyes to reach different levels of the light spectrum that weren't available to us thus far. And so our eyes are constantly changing. You could have crusties in your eyes. There could be watery eyes. It could be that you're having a hard time, maybe you're squinting or having a hard time focusing on certain things. It does feel like there's like oil or something in our eye that's kind of like, making things a little bit foggy or groggy, if you will. It does feel like the brightness of lights or the sun, or in my case, right now I'm looking out over the field and the sun is just beating down on all of this white snow, and it is absolutely beautiful, but also very blinding. It just feels like everything is a little bit overwhelming to our sensory system at this point in time, because again, we have recalibrated our energies, and that has a major impact on the sensory system that our physical bodies operate on. And so everything just feels to our senses like it's just jacked up just a tad. Now, what I will say is that where the eyes are concerned, we are going to start picking up, because our eyes are kind of being opened up to a different part of the light spectrum. We're going to be seeing orbs. We're going to be seeing the threads of the matrix, strings, if you will. But let me just say this, and I'm kind of, again, going to use the example of snow because I'm overwhelmed with snow. Snow is all that I've been able to think about and see in my life because there's just so much damn snow right now. But you know how like if the light hits a snowflake in a certain way that it like gives off the illusion that you're looking at a rainbow, and it kind of like you can see the different light and the different colors of the rainbow off of not even just a snowflake. Sometimes it happens when it rains. Basically, what I'm getting at is there's going to be a lot of rainbows, whether it is, the light being fractalized, or whether it's just there's signs and symbols of rainbows. Maybe you're watching a show and there's a rainbow. Maybe you're seeing a visual rainbow. The rainbow to me is a sign that we're on the right path, that we are realigned and recalibrated, and that we are seeing more of what, let's call it, this matrix initially wanted us to see as far as our quote unquote superhuman capabilities go. And, we've jacked up. This is like when the body is low and slow and heavy and weighted, it's because we're receiving a lot of solar codes, a lot of downloads that are basically amping up our inner realm and our soul and our spirit and our energetic body, while the physical body needs to stay low and slow in order for all of those recalibrations and realignments to happen. And so whichever way it kind of like manifests, it just feels like there's going to be a lot of visual stimulation, visual indicators that something has changed. Again, whether it be orbs or rainbows, or the matrix strings, right? Like, I don't know if people know what I mean when I say the matrix strings, but every now and then you can see a glitch in the matrix and literally see like the lines, the grid, the coding, and there's like this silver, it looks like a silver string, if you will, and it just like the light reflects off of it, and you can see very clearly that there is a grid pattern, a digital grid pattern, if you will, that like overlays everything here in the physical realm. And every so often you get to see that when the vibration and the frequency of the earth plane is rising, and the vibration and frequency of the people on the earth are also rising at the same pace. And it's those beautiful little glimmers that I call a validation point that we're on the right path, doing what we're doing, and that we're at the vibration and frequency needed in order to have these, again, superhuman experiences. So I'm going to say the head space, yes, there is going to be pressure there. The ear energy, it's going to feel like, I'm not going to say there's going to feel like you have an ear infection or an ear ache, but it's like one ear is muffled, or there's one side of the face that has more pressure on it, that has more aches and pains on it, that has more congestion on it than the other. And again, just putting it out there, when you pay attention to where some of these ascension symptoms are taking place in your physical body, we can tell a lot about what is going on energetically just on where these aches and pains manifest. And so, the right side of the body, like there's obviously something in our physical form or our physical experience that, again, is bringing these particular aches and pains to our awareness in order to kind of rectify the energy blockages that we're having alive and well in our cellular memory, preventing the energy from running clearly through the meridian channels of our physical form. While as the left side of the body is more about your spiritual life, your, spiritual evolution, your intuition, all of, your emotional realm, if you will. And even more than that, the front of the body is holding and harboring a lot of anticipation, anxiety, excitement, fears, doubts, and insecurities for the future. While the back of the body, if that's where you're having your aches and pains, is a lot of residual energy from the past. And again, when I talked in reference about the shoulder blades are highly significant because that's where the heart chakra is. It's just the back part of our heart chakra. And so when we have a lot of aches and pains, or a lot of rigidity, or like we need to like crack our back, or whatever the case may be, there's a lot of past emotions, past trauma that is still alive and well in our physical bodies, creating that particular energy blockage and that particular aches and pains. So again, we just have to pay attention to where some of this energy is actually manifesting in our physical form, because that's going to give us a clear indicator on where some energetic work needs to be done and on what area of the body we should actually start doing it in. So we're going to move down just a little tad here. I want to go to the chest area. It is going to feel, I'm not saying that we have coughs and that we're spewing up phlegm, although, under the releasing energy, that is definitely a possibility. It just feels like we're working a little bit harder to breathe. Now, that's just a thing. There is a lot of pressure of energy on our physical form. We have to kind of understand that, again, even though we're in Capricorn season and having Capricorn events, what's in the dark, what sits across the wheel from that is the Cancer energy. And the Cancer energy, again, is emotional, does rule over the chest. It is the heart space. It is our inner child. It is our familial trauma. It is all of those things. And so it just feels like we're having to work a little bit harder to gain a deep breath. It's not satisfying that, how when you have to take a deep breath just to like calm yourself down, it doesn't feel like we're able to fulfill that. But it just feels like we are, we're laboring in our breath. Again, we're all kind of shallow breathers. We do have to really work on that breath work in order to expand our lungs, in order to bring in that energy, that air, that prana, that again keeps the energetic system, the meridians going in our physical form. It just feels like we're working a little bit harder, and that there may even be a little bit of a rattle. Now, I know if you're having a rattle in your chest and you think that there is something wrong with you, obviously go see a doctor. However, there is a lot of energetic symptoms that again, your doctor's not going to do anything about, and sitting in an ER or sitting in a walk-in clinic, you're likely going to go home with something bigger and badder than what it is that you went in for. And all I'm saying is that if you feel the need to seek medical attention, by all means do that. I'm not going to tell you not to. That would be ridiculous. However, also don't be surprised when you get sent home feeling like a crazy ass, because again, there's not anything really wrong with you. It just feels like there is this vibration that like our airways are restricted, and that we're having to work a little bit harder for that big lung full of air, and that there is this like vibration, this little bit of a rattle, if you will, on certain breathe ins or breathe outs when we're trying to maximize that particular airspace. I want to talk about the fact that, of course, our digestive system is a little bit wackadoodle. Hopefully you had the willpower and the discipline to not put all the junk and gunk into the physical body and overwhelm your digestive system with a lot of processed foods and sugary foods that, of course, are just basically destabilizing your central nervous system and your immune system. But even if you were on your best behavior, even if you didn't like sway from your dietary intake at all, there's still this bubble guts. There's still this worry. Now, Capricorn season is notorious for worry. Again, Negative Nancy, Betty the Bully, they all come out to play. And whatever it is that we are worried about or creating anxiety about or are dreading or are just, carrying the weight of, that has a major impact on our digestive system. And so it may be, and I'm just putting it out there may be that a lot of us are going to have constipation here this week because we're resisting letting go of the shit. Literally, right? Letting go of the energetic shit, the emotional shit, the mental shit, the physical shit, but also the literal shit. That's how it manifests. And so a new moon specifically is usually a reset, whereas if you are kind of having some constipation issues as you anticipate a new moon, that new moon is a release. So, look out, schedule your plans accordingly. And those of us that are not having those constipation issues, we're just still having a little bit of a nervous belly. There's just some sort of anticipatory, anxiety-ridden type of energy in our physical body right now. Because again, we're at a very weird peak precipice where we are walking into uncharted territory, where we don't know what is coming at us in 2025. And may I also remind you that you've survived everything that has been thrown at you thus far. There's no reason to think that you wouldn't survive anything that will be thrown at you in the year to come. And not even that I'm trying to be a fearmonger or a Debbie Downer here, but that's the mindset of a lot of people in Capricorn season, because we do kind of err on the side of negativity because of Mr. Old Saturn having rulership, not only over Capricorn season, not only over this new moon, but Saturnalia, which of course, again, is the festival that creates mayhem in our ancestral lineage. So there's a lot of funk, there's a lot of junk that's coming up for us right now. And of course, that has a major impact on our digestive system. Now, I also talked about earlier, like I talked about the heaviness, the weight, the aches, the pains that we sometimes feel in our physical form here in Capricorn season, just because it is an earth energy and it does rule over our skeletal structure. But even more than that, I want to talk about our wrists. Okay. So whether you have an actual problem with your wrists, such as carpal tunnel or arthritis or whatever the case may be, even if you didn't, even if you never ever had anything wrong with your wrists, it's going to feel like your wrists are hella weak and that there's aches and pains, and you're constantly going to be, massaging your wrists and everything of the sort. And it feels like your elbow joint, like you constantly need to be stretching your arms out. And of course, it stems from the weight coming from your shoulders, like, the headspace, the neck, the weight on our shoulders. But even more than that, this is about our palm chakras, okay? So we've been talking over the course of 2024 being the year of 8, where we were being tested to see whether or not we're going to be gifted with our abilities to bring our creator abilities online. But our palm chakras, that's how we, we send energy out and we bring energy in. And because there has been a huge group of people being activated with their creator abilities. The energy isn't, comfortable in there. It's not free flowing as of yet. We are a little bit like cranked up, if you will, in our wrists. We are not feeling strong enough to take power and control over our lives. Again, think about your hands. Your hands are how you take action and make moves in the world. What you put your hands on is what you have the ability to mold, to create. We're just not there yet. And again, we're not really being supported by the energies to be there yet. So this is manifesting in a lot of aches and pains that, of course, people are going to say are stemming from, the shoulders and the head space and everything else, when realistically speaking, it's both the energy trying to stabilize in our meridians, in our physical form, so that we can activate our palm chakras and have them stay on. Throughout the course of 2024, there was times where they were full blown, like they're on. We can feel the energy moving throughout our bodies and moving throughout our hands. And then all of a sudden we got cut off from that. And then it was kind of like a glitch where, it was very sporadic, coming off and on. Our goal is to have this energy sustained, the creator abilities activated and permanently on. But sometimes our physical forms aren't strong enough to house the amount of energy that needs to be channeled through our palm chakras, thus the aches and pains that we're currently experiencing moving into the year that, of course, our creator abilities need to be online. So I want to talk about sleep for a second. So you may have noticed that either you're sleeping really well, very deep, very intensely, or you're not sleeping at all. Now, let me just remind you that we're in Capricorn season. Saturn rules over Capricorn season. That's the Lord of Karma. We do a lot of spiritual, emotional, mental, and even physical healing while we are in a sleep state. For those of you that aren't sleeping, please understand that you are not welcome in the astral realm right now, that it is an absolute shit show that you do not need to be a part of, and thus why you have insomnia, thus why you're only sleeping like 2 to 3 hours to prevent you from actually moving into the REM sleep state that puts you in the astral realm, while other people are sleeping so long and so deep and so intensely. Those people are fighting on the astral realms for freedom, for independence, for this shift to happen. So a lot of the times, some of the stronger energies here on this earth plane that are healers, that are alchemists, sometimes we're not welcome in the astral realm when shit is popping off, because we need to conserve our energies to be able to harness and anchor in the light here in the physical form. And although we may be exhausted from not having enough sleep, we are being protected by not being able to sleep. And vice versa, there are people that are needed in the astral realm, that their energy is more beneficial to fight the wars in the astral realm than they are fighting the wars and alchemizing the energy here. And those people are in a deep sleep, like a trance-like sleep, because there is releasing of karmic ties happening right now. This is what Capricorn season is all about. This is about understanding that there are things going on in the astral realm that you will never be able to make sense of. And let me also say this: if you are dreaming of old exes or old friends or, old situations and circumstances, that is not an indicator for you to pick up the phone and to reach out and call them. Okay, this is a time for you to realize that all of this stuff is being brought up in your dream state in order for the release to happen, because you're not going to get the karmic closures that you need here in the physical realm. If you pick up the phone, if you answer the call when people from your past are reaching out to you, that is you giving permission for this karmic exchange to continue into the next chapter. We do not want to do that. Let's let the past lie in the past where it belongs. Please do not take your dream content as an indicator to reach out to people, places, and things that you should have put in the past and should have put behind you. This is a cleansing and purification period, and sometimes we need to be reminded of those people, places, and things in our dream state and not take action upon them when we wake up, to give permission to the universe that, guess what, we're done. We've learned our lesson. We've outgrown that particular situation. We have no want, need, or desire to reconnect. And therefore, you will likely not only never see those people again in your physical realm, but you'll probably never dream of them again either. So there's a lot of people who get very nostalgic around this time, and then they have like dreams of people that they haven't talked to in like 20 years, and their automatic action when they wake up is to reach out on Facebook or, call them or text them or whatever the case may be, not realizing that you're giving permission for this karmic chapter to be, carried into this next level of life. And we don't want that. You need to lighten the load. We need to release those particular attachments. So please do not be acting upon the type of dream content that may be indicating to you that old people are resurfacing. They're only resurfacing in the astral in order for you to wake up, have those feelings, have that perspective, think of them, and then come to a certain term of agreement where you're like, whew, glad that was just a dream. Don't want to deal with their asses anymore, and move on. Let them stay in the past, okay? But whether you're sleeping or not, we get sweaty at night. We're having some night sweats. And a lot of this is because, again, we're going through a recalibration in our soul and our spirit. Our physical body is trying to keep up with being able to house all of the energy that we are now channeling through our physical form. And because of that, like in the nighttime, our physical, our biological system goes through the toxic cleansing process. All of our organs, every hour of the night rules over a different organ in our body to go through the detoxing needed in order to rejuvenate, renew the body for the next day. And so if you're somebody that, has heavy metals or is putting a lot of junk in their body and you're regularly sweating at night, it means that your organs are having some problems and you need to boss up your ability to nurture yourself and do what you can while, moving through your day-to-day life to take care of your physical health. But sometimes it just pops off, especially when we're in a deep karmic cleansing period and we're in a renewal recalibration period, that our physical bodies just go through these nightly night sweats. And, you're all cocooned up, you're all comfy, but you're sweating to death, but you're too cold without the blankets, but you're too warm with them. And you kind of slip in and out of these dream-like situations and scenarios, and your physical body is responding in real life time to what's going on in the astral. And right now, it's just a sweaty freaking mess. So the last thing that I just want to remind you of is that there is going to be this urgency as we move through the course of this week to get our shit together, to make changes, to make improvements, to do things differently. A lot of that is because of the new moon in Capricorn. But even more than that, I need you to put into perspective that this is not a time to take action or take moves. Okay, this is not a time to progress yourself in a new path, in a new direction. This is a time to plan. It's a time to research, to explore, to strategize, to think of the different options, think of the different variables, to take action and make moves to, let's say, eliminate, close the door on, wrap up some things, but definitely not planting the seeds, not initiating steps on this new path, on this new direction. Again, we will be supported in doing that in, let's call it the months to come, but it ain't going to be moving into January. Okay. It's not going to happen. So the more that you can understand that this energy is supposed to be helping you to build and cultivate a fire, a spark, a flame within you, and to get your shit together, to get organized, to do what you can, to plan, to strategize, to understand what needs to be done so that you have a clear path to execute upon when gifted with the green light, go ahead to do so. That is the name of the game. Let's not set ourselves up for disappointment. Let's not get discouraged when we want to take action and make moves and we try to do that and then we're bopped back 2 feet. Okay, that's what's going to happen if you try to force something that isn't being supported, that isn't being, I'm going to say, green light, go ahead to actually be initiated upon. We do not need to waste energy. We're very low on energy at this time. We do not need to be wasting it. We do not need to be out in the world doing things willy-nilly. We got to get organized. We got to get our shit together. We have to get a master plan. And that's what Capricorn energy, what Mr. Saturn is all about. So guys, I think that's all that I need to cover for this week. I thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I thank you so much for the love and support. And again, I just want to thank all y'all for being a part of my journey throughout the course of 2024. And again, just want to remind you, we are all linking spiritual and energetic arms. We are all walking into 2025 together. No one is left behind. No one is alone. We are doing this together. We're going to continue to do this together, and we are going to do what needs to be done in order for us to create new earth. I thank you so much for tuning in. I send you so much love, and we'll talk to you soon.